welcome. I am Jonnita Stanton. We have Reginald Perryman, Kashka Williams. We are TSARE, and this is the There's Something About Real Estate podcast where we talk all things real estate. Tonight, we have a special guest with us, Kayatta Mitchell.
Hello.
And she has never purchased a home. She would be considered a first-time home buyer, and this is our first-time home buyers consultation session. Okay?
Right.
Yay!
I'm late. Hey, look, before we start, though, so disclaimer, I don't smoke weed. Anybody, y'all don't smoke weed, right?
Smoke.
All right. Because people think I do because I come up with crazy stuff. So I always wondered, right? After the first nightmare, don't you think it should have been more for sale signs on Elm Street?
Cornball.
Right.
Was anybody going to buy the house, though?
Right.
Yeah, people with no kids.
Some people
Oh, my God.
what's that other movie? Them people be buying that dude go to the scary houses so he can write a book.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the paranormal.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah, I know what
All
you're
right.
talking about. Yeah.
So, yeah, be careful where you buy a house at.
Right. Right. I'm sure.
So, I guess we would start with how interested. So, when I do, I think we all have different styles,
Right.
I have to say. And one of the things that I kind of start with when someone approaches me is like, how interested are you on a scale from 1 to 10? You know, is it something that you're seriously considering, very interested in? You know, like which, on a scale from 1 to 10, how interested in you are you in becoming a homeowner?
10 being very interested, 0 being not that interested.
Okay. So I would say I'm right in the middle. So like 5.
Okay.
Like I'm definitely interested. I'm always like looking, keeping my eyes out and stuff like that. But like I have a lot of questions. Like, like how much, should I have saved up before I even start looking? What areas? Like what, how the market is, is this too out of my range? Don't go on that side of town. You know what I mean? You should kind of, or even still like where my credit should be at too. Like that's always what I'm thinking about. Should, is it a certain level where you should just be like, nah, you're not even ready. Or, or this is, you still can do something in this area. It's not the best, but you still can get out there. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of, but I would say in the middle. I would say like a 6, 7.
Those are all good questions, though.
Right.
Right? Those are all good questions. Yeah. And I think she's thinking right, though. Right. Most people be like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go buy a house tomorrow.
Right.
They wake up, literally, and maybe their friend just went and bought a house. They're like, I'm about to go buy one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I call it FOMO, the fear of missing out. Well, people, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So everybody else start doing it, you start doing it.
Right.
Right. Without even thinking about
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
And that understanding
Don't
that
get
this is one of the largest purchases you will ever make in your life, right?
Right.
You're buying a house.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Are you renting now?
Right.
And how long have you been renting the same house?
Well, the last 3 years? Yeah, 3
Okay.
years. Yeah.
All right.
So how surprised would you be to know that those are most people's first questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
When people come and they're looking to purchase, one of the first questions that they ask is, how much money do I need? What does my credit score need to be? I think some of those questions are easier to answer. Like the credit score question is a fairly easy question.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can give a pretty good range, be at least a 620 minimum. You can get started for less than that. And if you feel like your scores are less than that, then you can have someone to take a look at it a little bit closer, like a loan officer that you trust or that you want to use, and they could point you in the right direction. But when you start talking about how much money do I need, I think that's a little bit more of a complicated question because...
Well, it depends on the price range and the program.
Exactly.
The type of mortgage.
Right.
So let me ask you this, and you don't have to say the score. Do you know what your credit score is?
Not as of right now, I don't.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure it's stronger now.
Right.
Just because I've been working on it, but I haven't checked it in a while.
Okay. Most people don't. Like, even people that that are in the process of actually buying a house, they don't know their credit score until they call somebody. Because a lot of times the average person don't have a reason to check your credit score on a regular basis.
Right.
Although we all should, but in most cases people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or they got that credit karma.
Yeah. You go and check it.
Wait. So why are you laughing about?
Just because the credit karma is almost the equivalent of Zillow. Like when people go on Zillow and be like, "Oh, Zillow said my house is worth this much." You know what I'm saying?
So you basically saying credit karma is just not really accurate.
It's not reliable.
Correct. It's not.
Well,
it's not.
It's a good template to kind of give you a range, but it's not as accurate. So in the mortgage world, they have their own criteria for checking credit scores.
Okay.
Credit Karma will just say, "Hey, you're here, and this is a range," but the lenders look at something a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different scoring model.
So we like to use myfico.com. I just actually checked mine on there today.
Giving my,
but everybody does it. Like, what's your name? MG, the mortgage guy. Everybody talks about
it. Using that?
Yes.
Yeah,
he bit that from me.
I
was first.
I think that
Soldier Boy, I did it first. Right. I was the first person using myfico.com.
You might be. I was not using it before I met Shaka. But it works. So use it. Some people don't want to use it because they have to pay money. You have to spend $40 a month. You don't.
But it's going to be accurate though.
Yeah, and you don't have to keep a monthly subscription.
Okay.
Either. So I think that would you guys say that knowing your credit score is part of financial literacy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say probably with credit score, you probably want to check it about a year before you decide you want to buy a house.
Okay.
So a lot of people wait until like, I'm gonna look to buy a house this April, and then they look at their credit score. They don't even look at it. They wait until the loan rep pull their credit.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Right. So probably check if you're gonna buy a house this summer. Start now looking at your credit score. When you call the lender, you can say, "This is my credit score. This is what's on my credit."
Okay.
Because they can probably tell you some things to do before they even run your credit report.
Got it.
Yeah. And so the reason why I said that the money part to me can be a little bit more involved is because, like Reggie said, so you have all these different tiers and price point. So are you buying a $50,000 house, a $200,000 house, or a $500,000 house? You know what I mean? And then I think the question is not more so how much do I need. It would be more so how much am I willing to spend or put down, because you have first-time home buyer programs. You have a lot of them. I think one of the strongest contenders right now would probably be Mishta. That's what we're seeing a lot of. I'm sorry. And what they loan between $7,500 to $10,000.
Right.
And you have to be responsible for 1% in that case. So 1%, if you're buying a $200,000 house, it's $2,000 is how much you have to have vested into your transaction. If you're not getting Mishta, you're just going straight conventional or FHA. Those are different programs. Now you have different tier. The minimum for conventional is 3%.
Right.
Minimum for FHA is 3.5%. And then you have to invest your own 3% and 3.5%. I mean, it could be gifted.
Right.
You like your mom, dad, grandmother, aunt.
Right.
So
3% and 3.5% of the purchase price.
Right.
Of the house.
Right. So if that's $200,000, you're at $6,000.
Then you have your closing costs. Your closing costs on top of that.
And that's the other thing that's a little complicated, because down payment and closing costs are two separate things. But a lot of times people speak about those
like together.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. So when people
until now, I didn't know that they were two separate things.
Right.
Yeah. Because you would just be thinking how much I got to put down.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So your closing costs would be like your lender fees, tax prorations, and things like that. And a lot of times, well, in this market it's not as common, but in most programs, the seller can pay part of your closing costs. So they can credit back to you. So some people will come to the table with just their down payment.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that can be negotiated. But you have to know what market you're in. Right now it's so competitive, most sellers aren't paying your closing costs.
Yeah.
That's like the bad thing. People was really they thought that's like norm.
Right.
Right? Like, you know what? You just pay the closing costs. You know what I'm saying? You give me that 6%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not understanding that was because of the market.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was around that. So.
Well, there's strategies around that as well. So getting back to maybe having people to understand that it doesn't necessarily have to come out of their profit. We can put it on top of their profit. When we're talking about closing costs. But
do you understand what she said?
She kind of went left on me a little bit.
I did.
But I was trying to will it back in.
All right. So let's say
she was over there willing too, like really willing.
I'm like,
let's say your closing. So really, you kind of financing your closing costs, and this is one strategy. So the house is $200,000. You got your down payment, but your closing costs may be $13,000.
okay.
All right. So you offer the seller $213 and have them pay $13 towards your closing costs.
Okay.
So basically, you're kind of financing it, but
Right.
you're coming to the table with less money. So you kind of just adding it on to your mortgage.
Okay.
The issue is the house has to appraise for $213,
Right.
or the lender is not going to loan it. And some programs won't allow the seller to give you. So most programs, the max is like 6%. Some lenders will only allow 3%, because based on your credit and everything, they want you to have more skin in the game.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why it's hard to do in this market, because the seller is selling it at what it's appraising at. You know what I mean? They're not it used to be you leave a little bit of. It used to be a little bit of fair. Now I just think they just
negotiate.
dogging it right now, right? You know what I mean? It used to be fair. Like people used to try to leave some money in there for the buyer, right? Now they don't care. Like
Well, it wasn't that. It was that the buyers had it was less competitive. The buyers can negotiate that.
Agreed.
The house been sitting on the market a month or 2 months, so they can negotiate that.
But no, because I still wouldn't have my house to stay on the market for no month or 2 months. Never.
Right. Because you
never
probably was
did I have
accepting
that.
one of those offers.
Right. You know what I mean? Like I was yes. And then because I just was more fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to get the deal done. I'm not about to sit on it for a month or two and have a month or two of holding costs.
Right.
As well. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of sellers now are not educated on actual
not
real money.
educated. They're getting 12 offers in 1 week.
So
why would they give up any leverage to a buyer?
Agreed.
So I think that right now, if you're coming into the market, let's say if you said, you know what, man, that was a great talk we had yesterday. Let's get started next week looking for a house. Then you kind of have to just understand that it may be a little bit of a process.
Yeah, for sure.
You may go through 5 houses that you like before you get an offer accepted, unless you're trying to do what you call win the bid.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you probably, coming and paying all of your own costs. That just threw me off. Sorry.
So like right now it's competitive. People would pay more than a list price.
Got it.
And they would guarantee. So the house might appraise for $200. They'll give appraisal guarantee, and they'll say if it don't appraise, I'll offer $205. If it only appraised for $200, I'll pay the $5,000 difference. So.
And then you can't underestimate what other people are doing too. So like right now we have a transaction where we have a $30,000 guarantee. So that means that if we have a deficiency in our appraisal or the value, then that buyer is willing to come out of pocket, an additional $30,000. But it's not really. You just have to. I think that when it comes to like the appraisal guarantees, you have to understand that you're just not financing that money.
Right.
You're paying for it. Now you have more equity built in because you paid for it. And you just spending money the same way you do when you go and buy anything else that's not a house. Like, you pay for
I
it
don't agree.
out of pocket.
I don't agree with that because so if you're paying, if let's say your offer was $200, but you gave a $30,000 appraisal guarantee,
right?
And appraisal came back at $200, just because you put the $30,000, you don't have $30,000 in equity.
No, you don't.
No.
If it came back at $200,
that's what
you
$30,000.
But what I'm trying to explain is that you were willing to finance $230,000, which still would have been at the top of the, would have been all of your equity. So the bank wouldn't allow you to finance $230,000, but you still were willing to pay $230,000.
Right.
So now you still, are only financing $200,000 instead of $230,000.
But now, instead of in your $30,000, if you would have normally put that $30,000 down, you would have had equity.
Do you
Now you
understand
don't
what they're
have
saying?
equity.
So she's saying, you was willing to pay $230. It didn't appraise for $230, but you paid the difference. So you still satisfied because you was gonna spend $230 because you wanted this house. He's saying if it appraised for $200 and you put in $230, you in a hole.
That's
But
what,
her mindset is saying, hey, I wanted it $230.
I wanted it anyway.
I'm good. He's saying that's just a bad investment.
No.
Well,
Jonnita said that you had $30,000 of equity. Yes.
He's saying
You don't.
You don't have the equity.
Yeah, he's
Right.
saying it's not.
It's
But
not. Okay, so you get it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm following both
in
of
this
them.
in this
All right.
market.
Because I seen exactly where he was like, I don't agree with that.
Right. What would you do in that situation?
In that situation, if I was willing to pay that and I
Right.
had that, and this was something that I was set on,
Right.
and that was a purchase that I really wanted to make,
Right.
I would probably be satisfied.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So, two things. So, the house that you're in now that you're renting, would you buy that house?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would buy that property.
Okay. And so, what would make you pay more than what the house appraised for? And like the situation they were talking about. Like, would it be like school district, location?
It would have to be something to where I was set on that house. It had to be
Okay.
something where, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like some type of selling point. It could be the location. It could be close to my employment.
Right.
It would have to be something that sold me on it.
Okay.
Probably a number of things, not just probably one. You know what I mean?
I think there are a lot of people who have that mindset and a lot of people who feel like they're buying into a projected equity.
Yeah.
So what you have right now is values are still increasing. I don't know that we're at the top or we've peaked in value. And so in certain areas where people go in and they buy a house, so like using the example that I just said with our $30,000 guarantee, that person is projecting a future higher value for that property. So if the house doesn't appraise, they are still expecting that the value is coming. Right. So it's opinion right now.
Well, it's not a negative. So Reggie misunderstood what I was saying.
Right.
I didn't. It's not a negative. Like
he just said he didn't agree with it. Was the equity was in it.
Right.
And if you, I think that way in everything in life. Like everybody be trying to find a deal, and I don't have time to find a deal.
Right.
If it's what I want, I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna pay for it. You
Whatever.
know what I'm saying? And it's because that's what I wanted. Within reason.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's why I liked when you asked me that, because it had to be something. You know what I'm saying? Just like growing up, Oak Park was just like, oh, this is a family area. I just still ask my dad, like, oh, is that one house? Do they have an open house coming up? We still walk through, because I would think like that would be like my ideal like area to live in, like the Oak Parks, the Berkeley's, that little that little area, Royal Oak, But that's because I done looked at many of those houses with your mom, with Carrie, Like I know a lot of like how the structure is, how the insides look, you know what I'm saying?
You from there.
And I'm from there, it's local. It's local. Like you're familiar with the area. That would be a selling point too.
Okay.
Like being familiar with an area that you already know.
Right.
But, good points about that area in particular here in Michigan. We've had the equity in Oak Park in particular has just
everywhere.
Increased tremendously, even from so I have a best friend right now who's staying in Oak Park. And I think a year, maybe two ago, she was offered the house for like $100,000. And everybody know that anything in Oak Park right now is like 200 plus.
Right.
So at the time, the mindset was it's not worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this house ain't worth $100,000.
That's why I asked her would she rent the house she in. Yeah.
Yes, or is it?
Or is it?
Uh-huh.
So, I think that sometimes when the buyers, you have a lot of people over the years since we've been increasing in our in equity and, property values and coming back from like the recession,
Right.
who have spent, whether it was early on where you could go up $10,000, $11,000 and just finance it where you didn't have so much competition.
Right.
Or now you have this new phase of like the appraisal guarantees. The values are still, right now, they're increasing.
Right.
So, what else have you been curious about when it comes to purchasing a house?
I don't know. I mean, well, outside of like, where your credit needs to be at, what different loans can you go through? I mean, basically like the main questions I asked you earlier, those are the key points. But also too, when going into purchasing a house, do you advise, if you're dating, not even dating, like if you're even married, like a married couple,
Right.
how do you go about when you're purchasing a house? Like, are both names like?
Oh yeah, this is a good
Like-
one. Yeah. So I'm
like does the wife name go? The person, like, does the husband name go? Do both names go? Like,
I'm gonna let Reggie go.
Yeah.
Reggie, like we like jump in.
Scenario,
Yeah.
It's a
scenario by scenario basis.
all right.
But
I'm gonna give you.
best
I'm gonna
practice.
give you the answer on paper, and then I'm gonna give you my opinion.
okay,
The dating versus marriage part.
Okay.
Right. So on paper, you got to think about two things: both people's credit and their income. Because we see it all the time. One person has good money, they make the most, but their credit is shot, or they got the $900 car note and it's throwing their income to debt ratio off, right? Or you have where both people have income, one person bad credit, and the lender just like, no, you need to keep them off the loan, but you can add them to the house
okay,
on title. So title and mortgage is two different things, right?
Okay.
And a lot of times people would be like, well, I'm not helping with the down payment if my name not on the title, right? You're going to get that a lot.
okay,
So it really depends on who qualifies.
okay.
Sometimes one person can qualify for the loan, and the other person don't have to be on it. But this is where we become like relationship counselors at the closing table or during the process, because it'll make a person feel some type of way. Here we are. We came into this process together, and now you letting this person tell you to leave me off the property. Well, no, I can add you to the title. You just don't have to come to closing. You don't have to sign none of these docs. But the issue is whoever signs that mortgage, regardless of who's on title, is responsible for the mortgage.
Got it.
So if y'all break up, this is why I kind of, my opinion, I'm not giving relationship advice, but if you're dating, you need to think it through and have that conversation, what's going to happen if we break up. Because if your name is on the mortgage and they there, and for some reason you can't get them out the house or whatever, but their name is on title, you're going to have a big issue. Because now you responsible for a payment and you can't get it just causes all type of issues.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, I'm
So-
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you ask. That's why,
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah.
If you dating, don't buy a house.
Right.
together, period. Right. But if you're married, I still only want to put one person's name on the house. Because
And I can understand why you would do that too.
I want to leverage our credit. You know what I mean? And I mean, you just want to be prepared. You're not going into any situation expecting the worst. But let's say that if you and your wife, me and my wife both go on the mortgage, and we for whatever reason we lose the house. Now both of our credit is messed up.
Right. Yep.
If I just go on the mortgage and then we lose the house, I still got her credit to be able
You
to
still
go
can
buy
bounce
another
back.
house.
Yeah,
You know what I
bounce
mean?
back.
And then you have to think about it too, like even if you want to invest in other like business ventures. So owning a house sometimes can be leveraged. You have some stability there, but sometimes you may be buying another like investment property. And they looking at your mortgages, and now they're looking at your income to debt ratio.
Right.
Well, I'm not even on the house. You know what I'm saying? I may be on title, and then that's when you get into the legal part. Well, her name may not be on the mortgage. It may be on title, or I just have her on the will or something like that. It's different ways.
Yeah.
Because people do feel a certain way. Like, I'm here, I don't have no ownership rights whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have that talk up front.
Yeah.
Then if you married, you know, I don't care about being on the deed anyway. Because,
I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm married.
Yeah. You pay all the bills anyway.
Anyway.
Right? Yeah.
But people always have that fear they're going to get kicked out or
We got
something like that.
We got to thank our guests for coming.
No. So
No, I said that I would just step away for a minute. I said I would come back if y'all wanted me to.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all just need like 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Superstar.
So I guess gonna take a little break and come back while we continue this conversation. I mean, I think that was a good segue, though. I mean,
it is. So is that? So I don't think that. I mean, I guess technically, you're supposed to, if you're married,
Right.
you're supposed to put both of them.
Well, it
on
used
there?
to, it used to be dower rights.
Yeah.
So it was like if the husband buy, the wife automatically has dower rights. But the wife could buy or sell without the husband.
Right.
The husband, at the time, the husband could buy, but he couldn't sell without the wife.
Right.
But now that's all changed. And then we're in a society now where you don't know who to call husband, who to call wife, because people are identifying with different whatever, right? So it's really equal. So you just have to decide up front who's gonna be on
Can we
what.
get our other guest in here right quick, Dean?
Yeah.
You don't got no questions?
Dean
Actually,
always
bought,
have.
right? He ain't a first time home buyer.
Yeah,
He
but
really
he
having questions.
He do.
Yeah.
He do.
So-
I got the main camera.
all right. So Dean Beans.
Popping cameras.
Right.
All right.
So let's hear.
First time home buyers?
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
not a first time home buyer though, right?
Technically, yes.
Oh, okay.
But I
Right.
think this is
Because,
a good
see,
kind.
I was a situation that
Yes,
y'all talked about.
that's what I was getting ready to say.
So we was in a relationship and we bought the house. I had the bread,
Right.
I had the credit,
Right.
but I didn't have the tax information at the time.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and it was like, it's time to buy a house. And I was like, I don't want to live nowhere that ain't mine.
Right. Yep. Exactly. That's
Like,
what I was
no,
talking
y'all
about.
literally said what I said. I was like,
Yep.
no, I ain't doing it.
Right.
No, because it's not in my name.
Right.
And if the second you get mad, I'm going to be mad.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to have to leave. And so, because of love,
Right.
I went on ahead and I went through with it. And the funny thing, we, out of pocket, spent less than $500.
Right.
Because we got in the Mr. program when they
Okay.
was giving $20,000 towards your down payment and concession. So that
Right.
paid for everything,
Okay.
literally, you know.
Right.
And when we broke up, everything that I had said,
Right.
I was like, it ain't my house.
Right.
Right. Yep.
It's not my house.
Right.
Now I done paid $1,000 for a roof,
mortgage.
well, putting
Yeah.
it on a roof, but
Right.
I'm redoing all the plumbing,
Yep.
renovations. You know what I'm saying? It's not to say that she didn't do nothing,
Right.
you know,
Right.
but I know what I spent.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? And once we let it go, I mean, even to this day, she say this is our house because she's an honorable
Right.
person.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day,
You was lucky.
it's not my house.
Right.
You know? So I would advise anybody, if you care about the property, make sure your name is on it.
Right.
If you care about the value of the property, that means something to you. If you don't care, then so what?
Right.
Well, you're talking about somebody that's in the, because y'all wasn't married, obviously.
We wasn't married.
So I
Yeah.
deal with a lot of situations like that. And when we get to the closing table, they let me know, do you want to be added to the deed or do you not want to be added to the deed? And a lot of times the title company just adds the person to the deed at closing.
Right. Well,
Right.
see, here's the thing. When you get into programs, it's based upon one
Yep.
person's income. So
Right.
you can't put your name
No,
on
that's-
that deed
that's
until
false
after that.
information.
You can put your name on the deed
At closing.
At closing, always. But
I'm saying, I know you can.
you're
I'm
saying,
saying,
that, yeah.
I know you can, but if you do that, then you mess up the
No,
program
you don't.
you in.
No.
That's what we was told.
I know.
It-
yeah.
it depends on the program.
They don't want you doing that. obviously, right?
Right.
So, of course
Yeah,
they're gonna
because
tell
we was
you.
gonna get a quick claim, like
Some
no
people
problem.
do it after closing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because a
absolutely.
lot of people add like their kids or their moms name the deed after closing for other reasons in
Yeah.
case of death or something like that.
So I just got told a whole ass lie.
No,
Yeah.
people,
Well, not
sometimes people don't
necessarily,
know when they talk.
or that could have been a requirement for the program at the time because they probably
I think
said,
it was.
So
because
with
the title
Mr.
company probably said we didn't want to do it at closing, but we can do it after closing for
You
you.
can
Right.
always
But he probably didn't
I know
talk
you
to the
can
title
always
company
add it.
about it. So
Right.
so he said he got a MSHDA loan. With MSHDA, for you to leave, if you're married
Right.
and you leave somebody off, then you have to have a higher scoring criteria. You got to be in a 660 program.
Right.
If you're not married, then you have to be in a 640 program. But once you are done with the underwriting process, you have your clear to close. Now you're at the closing table and you're signing paper. The title company can bring in their quitclaim deed and add you. So it's not going to happen the day of. The paperwork is the only thing that's going to happen that day. And that's just them getting your signature and notarized for the quitclaim deed. And then when they go to file, they'll file their mortgages. They'll file the mortgage, and
Yeah, they got to record the first deed first
Yeah.
so it can show right in the chain of title.
Gotcha.
right.
So the other thing is, too, the loan rep probably said not to do it because a lot of those programs are based on household income.
Exactly.
So my application, everything said, this is my household. And then at closing, you added another person to the household.
Exactly. So,
So
that's
that
what I'm
can
saying.
be an issue.
I know you can do it. I just
Right.
know that it would have been an issue.
Right.
So it was like, well, you got 5 years for forgiveness for this
Right.
one because they forgave it then.
Right.
And I was like, I just tough out the 5 years and we'll do
Yep.
a quick claim deed. You know what I'm saying? And then we made like 2.5. And it's like,
But adding the person to title does not necessarily mean that you add them to the household.
Well, no. So what I'm saying is the lender, I don't know who told him that, but
Right.
I'm thinking that the lender was probably saying, we got this far and it was just you.
Yeah.
Let's
Leave it
not
alone.
change anything now. Do it after the fact.
Right.
Basically,
Because-
what we're saying is, yes, you can add your name to the title
I know
on the
that.
quitclaim deed, but maybe you may not want to do it at closing. You may want to do it afterwards.
yeah,
Right.
well, no, we already had planned on, listen, the second closing happened, I called my agent who was a friend of mine. I was like,
Right.
all right, let's go ahead and do this because,
Right.
You want to get your name on it.
you know what I'm saying? And he was like, you might
Yeah.
want to wait on that because, you know, it was based upon this. And
Yeah.
you just don't want to rock the boat. And I was like, well, okay, I'll wait.
Right.
You know, and just so happened, but see, here's the trippy part. By the time I decided I was going to leave, I was like,
Right.
well, yeah, I left the money I spent, but I also left the responsibility of the
Yeah.
house.
Correct.
Yep.
So it had its flip side to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is stop being so. So if a house to me is a house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not like a lot of people. I'm not sentimental. You know what I mean? I don't
You're
care.
not emotionally
It's- you know what I mean?
connected to
Emotionally,
it.
yeah, it's a
Right.
house.
I
You know
had
what
to
I'm
have
saying?
one to learn that. Now I just don't even care no more.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a thing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yes. Yep.
But here's a question that I think a lot of people should need to know. So you hire an inspector.
Right.
So from what I know, you don't have to take a test. You just got to do the hours, and you're an inspector.
Right.
Right. So one, how do you find a good inspector? Because a reference ain't enough. Going online looking at their reviews ain't enough because all their friends and family could have did the reviews. And when they
I'm
don't
gonna
do
answer.
right,
Right.
when you get this house and all the stuff they said was good, some of that stuff is bad
Right.
based upon their advice. What kind of defense do you have against?
I think that
on that?
what happens with the private inspections is, so I don't necessarily love private inspections. Do we recommend them? Yes. And I'm going to tell you why I recommend them. Because I feel like it invites everybody into the house for at least like another 2 hours additional. That you're going to stand there, you're going to look at things, and you're really going to decide, like, you know, do I want this house? And this inspector is going to point out deficiencies on a very minuscule level. You know what I mean? But if you really want the real information, so like if you're concerned about the roof or your furnace or your plumbing, then you have to get those skilled persons into that property during your inspection period.
Okay.
So you're gonna call
A roof
the
inspector.
actual roofer. You're
Somebody wanna tell you if something's wrong with it, so they can charge you to do it.
Man, let me
Cause
tell
they
you.
gonna give you the truth.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I had a
Right.
whole money pit.
Yeah.
So, in there for a week,
Yep.
I walk into one of the bedrooms, ceiling leaking.
Yeah.
What is going on? So now I had to tear the ceiling out
Yep.
to see that the pecs that they didn't do it right.
But my question to you is, so this is how I always, because that's something that comes up fairly often, and it's unfortunate. Now, the inspectors do have a device that can show running water or moisture, and it's detected by like the coolness of, the environment.
Understood.
So when you go into that house, if you're not running water and none of that's happening, there's no evidence. So like I'm sitting here right now, and it looks pretty good. The inspector comes in, they do use their moisture detector. There's no moisture detected. But then
I don't recall them doing that.
when you start living in a house and you start flushing the toilet and running the bath water and all those things,
Stuff start happening.
and things start happening, how does the inspector find that?
He can't. So you got to be realistic.
You got to let me finish.
Well, yeah, I wanna-
Right.
You got to let me finish. So that was one thing.
Right.
Second thing, I'm sitting in the basement. It's raining outside.
Right.
Now, I actually made sure I went over there before we bought it on the day that it rained.
Right.
Right? We're in the basement. Everything's pretty chill.
Right.
Give me about a month. We had a heavy rain. I had the River Nile in my basement. Literally, like I could hear it flowing. And I looked at the wall and I touched the paint and the paint just started peeling off the wall. I'm like, okay, now how can you not? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I had to investigate myself. And what I found was from the front of the house, it was rain coming on the porch, pouring on the porch because there was a piece of gutter missing. And even if it was a gutter there, it was
Right.
nowhere for it to go.
Right.
So it was going on the side of the porch, and that part of the porch where the side was, it was eating up the mortar.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, boom. I had to go myself,
Right.
put a gutter up, ran it down, fill in the mortar, and I put the gutter underground, dug a trench, put PVC pipe all the way to the front of the house so all that water would flow away from the house, and boom, I ain't got no issue.
Right.
Then I'm like, something's wrong in this other room. So I go on the roof,
Right.
and I'm like, why does it feel so soft?
Yeah.
I called a roofer. It was no wood there.
Oh my God.
Bro,
But look, I
How do
still
you
have,
not know
I
this?
still,
Hold
on,
I
no,
still,
that
me
just
say
was
something.
bad. That was a
Let
bad
me
inspection.
say
and
so
something.
my
appraisal.
question is, how do you pick a good inspector?
Well, hold on.
Right.
Let me say this, because that wasn't a bad inspector. Listen, so you.
He went on the roof.
That,
All right,
Did he
that's
walk
great.
the roof?
Hold on.
Yes.
He could have walked the roof and maybe not walked in that area. Now you can't expect so you have to be realistic when you're hiring an inspector.
Okay.
Right. So you can't expect that he's gonna be able to come out. You ever went to you had an issue with your car?
Okay.
And you took it to the mechanic, and you told the mechanic what it was doing, but when you get there, the mechanic like, shit, it ain't doing it right now. So I don't know what the problem is,
Right.
right? I'm not driving your car every day. And this is, and I'm not trying to take up for inspectors because I don't care, right?
Right.
I don't do inspections.
Okay.
But you can't expect somebody to come in the house for 2 hours, 3 hours, and be able to tell you what's going on for the last 30 years of that house. It's unrealistic. So you yourself was living in there for a week. So you was in there a whole damn week, and you ain't know that you had no damn no wood in the attic. You didn't know that the plumbing was leaking in the attic. You didn't know that
I replaced all of the
leak
plumbing in
basement.
the house from
Well,
underground to the stack.
Once you figure,
Like,
but I got another
at
question
some
about
point.
that inspection. So it's because I find it hard to believe you come on back. The inspector did not say you need gutter extensions. The grading is low on the
and
house.
that's what
he sent us a whole thick printout. I read all of that. Did not.
That's
This
weird.
is kind of where I agree with Dean to a certain. You do have inspectors that are better than others. That's
Yeah.
just the
For
reality,
sure.
right?
Some are more
So what you do is you want to ask around for one. If you ask me for an inspector, I'm gonna give you two that killed a couple of my deals because I know they was extra thorough.
Okay.
Now some inspectors, the way they word things will scare a buyer, right? So you have to be careful of that too. But you have to ask for good references. Like some of my inspectors I work with actually have builder's license.
Right.
Some inspectors, they're with an organization or a company that requires them to take some type of test to know exactly what they're doing, or they have to go through some type of training first to know what to look for.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm an inspector now.
Right.
No, because I feel like once you live through that process and you were a homeowner
Yeah.
who had an inspection, so you were present for the inspection,
Yeah.
and then you start living with those problems. So I understand what you mean, because you have a better idea of what to look for now.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when it comes to like some of those issues that's in the wall or underground, it's very hard to pick up on those things, because the only way that the inspector can find that is if they cut a hole in the drywall and then watch the water run.
That's what I want to
They're not
ask.
doing that.
How do you expect him to know those things? So how do you expect him to know that you got a leak in your basement?
Okay, so this is my thought process. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong.
Right.
If I'm looking at somebody's house, you look at the foundation, correct?
Right.
On the outside as well.
Correct.
Right.
If I see that it's mortar missing,
Right.
and I can stick my fingers in there,
You're going to say tuck point.
I'm gonna say, hey, something's wrong with this brick or whatever. You know, you
Right.
could have an issue. Whoop-de-whoop. Did not.
Right.
So that's where I say, nah, you didn't do your job.
Did he
Because
give
maybe
you,
it
did he
wasn't
give you your
showing.
inspection at the time of the inspection, or did he send it to you the next day?
He sent it to me like in a day or two.
Okay,
He
so
emailed
that means
us
he
something.
took
He was thorough.
Yeah.
Dog, he
Yeah.
cannot find. So everything that he named was not something that an
I
inspector would
disagree
Mortar
with
missing?
that.
ever.
I disagree
That
with that.
grading
Mortar
stuff,
missing on
they
the foundation?
don't-
No,
So typically
how?
the
So
inspectors
maybe the-
find that stuff.
so he
the
said-
grading.
I disagree.
the
I think he
gutter
just had a bad. The gutter extension
That's
was.
normally what they find.
They would have found
See,
that.
here's this.
How can you not
that's why
know
we,
you needed?
That's why I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do this. So
it was
we're
supposed
talking
to be a
we're
gutter.
talking to a person. So he is a civilian,
Right.
right?
Right.
You got to take his story with a grain of salt. I'm not saying you're lying.
My story's
I'm just
the
saying
truth.
it's his
understand
it's his opinion.
Right.
I'm
so what
thorough.
saying, you ain't no way. Dog, it's not no way. That's the biggest thing that they look for is gutter extensions and shit. Right.
Right.
Now he said he had a heavy rain. So I'm hearing every. So he like
Send me that inspection.
Hold on. He like the person that you go on Yelp and you read the review, right? And you they be like they gave it a 2, right?
Right,
They gave it a
right.
2 because they was the waitress was an asshole, or the kid next.
Right.
It was a kid in the booth next door that made it loud and shit, right?
Right, but the food was
restaurant
still
is
That's
good.
not why
alive,
we. No,
right?
that's not me.
But hold on, but listen. So, but based
That's
off
an asshole.
But based
That
off
ain't
what,
me.
But based off what he's saying,
Right.
So he just gave me 3 things.
Right.
He gave me a basement that he said is leaking.
Right.
And he gave me a roof that he said is leaking, and he gave me
And it's under the
a
shingle.
plumbing that's
Here's where,
in the attic.
here's where I'm gonna
no,
stop
you
you.
coulda-
Here's where I'm
you
gonna stop
coulda
you.
went in the
Hold on.
attic
Here's
and
where I'm gonna
seen
stop
that
you
roof.
because he went in the attic. You go in the attic and you see wood
And you
missing.
look for all the-
Period.
right.
He didn't do his job right. I'm
agree
not.
with that.
He didn't do his job
When
right.
I walked in your house in Royal Oak Township and we went up to the attic,
Yeah.
I looked directly where the wood was missing.
Yes. So listen.
So I agree- that's why I
and
agree
if he
with
didn't
Dean.
say it, he wrong.
Yeah.
Don't agree with y'all.
And then
So-
next thing you know, the ceiling fell down.
Which
because
hold
of
on.
him.
No,
He
I
the reason-
agree.
And y'all
No,
thought
wait,
process
hold
is the
on.
reason why I won't do inspections.
Wait, hold on. Let
Because
me.
that people they expect you as dog. I'm not. I mean, so inspectors is a regular person.
I expect
right?
you to tell me what you see.
correct.
He saw it. He
No,
didn't
he did.
say it.
Oh, if he saw it and he.
So this is what I can tell
If you
you.
went in the attic,
This-
you ain't
hold on.
look, bro. I'm talking like as big as that sign.
But
Wood
look,
missing.
This is what
Just
I can
shingles.
say about inspections and inspectors.
Yeah.
There's no unless the inspector is the seller of that house. They don't have any. They're not being benefited because you're
Exactly.
paying them. So they're gonna get paid regardless. That whatever you pay, $300, $250, $275, whatever it is you pay for
Exactly.
your private inspection on your home. They're gonna make that money regardless
Exactly.
to what they tell you.
Exactly.
So I'm just thinking that person was not intentionally negligent. Now maybe some things did go on unseen.
I think he was remedial.
Maybe he
Right.
wasn't that great. Maybe
Yeah.
he wasn't that experienced. But I'm just saying that I don't think that it was like an intentional thing.
No,
He ain't saying intention. He's just
Well,
saying.
no,
I'm
he just
saying-
did. He
right.
just
I'm
said that he
saying,
saw a
look,
hole.
there's
Oh,
like
nah,
like
I
at
know
this
what
at this point
Or neither
I
of them.
understand so much.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go in the bathroom, you run the tub for a second and
Right.
see how the water runs down.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You supposed to say it's running slow. It's not. Well, it ran real slow to the point we couldn't even use that shower.
Right.
And the more I dug into the house, I had Roto-Rooter there.
That
I was like, man,
inspection
just take
company,
everything
they
out.
didn't
because
have
You just
any,
had a bad inspection.
warranty.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hearing
So
that.
my original question
How do you get a good
is how, because you can't
Well,
go
Reggie
by
have an answer.
reviews. You can't go by reviews on Yelp.
You gotta
No.
go to people. You gotta go to people that use inspectors all the time.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like if I go to a studio and I go online versus going to an actual 2 or 3 recording artists and be like, where do you record at?
Yeah.
Right.
And I can listen to their music and the quality.
Okay.
I'm gonna take their advice versus
Gotcha.
me just going online and being like Joe Smo or whatever. And I don't have any proof.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm taking my chances. So ask the people. Your investors, who do you use for your inspections? Your realtors, who do you use
Yeah.
for inspections?
Gotcha.
And that's how you find a good
Okay,
inspector.
so my next question, I need you to entertain me for a second, okay?
Right.
You get this inspector, and he just did a bad job, and you end up in a money pit,
Right.
okay? And it's really his fault. It's his fault.
Right.
Where is your defense after
Sue his
that?
ass.
Look, sue him. Look at his contract though, because some inspectors, their contract will read in a way that they're not liable for something that they couldn't see. Right. Now, if it's something like with the gutter and the downspout, that obviously should have been on there. But like something under the ground, there's no way they know that. But most inspectors will even say, we recommend you have a sewer scope done.
Yeah, I wasn't tripping on the underground part because I
Right.
actually did order the sewer scope, but the trap you couldn't get the camera
through the
through
trap.
it.
Right.
So
The common
so I
part.
was
So you
like
knew it was
whatever
something-
comes with that, I'm okay with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we
But that
ended-
wasn't the sewer. It
That's
wasn't
the
even
trap.
about the sewer. You said it came from
listen to what I'm saying,
water
man.
missing.
Listen to
Right.
what I'm
Nothing to do with the
saying.
sewer.
That part from underground to the main outside drain, that's on me. I was
Right.
cool with that. I'm telling you, I removed every single piece of plumbing in the house and redid the whole. I spent $10,000 doing the whole house over
Right.
because it was bad. It was so bad.
Right.
And it was like, I know you are inspecting this stuff. It is right there in front of you, bro. You can't tell me that you ain't find nothing wrong, and I had to do the whole thing.
So to
and I
answer your
literally
question,
had to.
so hold on, we can answer this question. It's simple for everybody out there. I
Whoop
would
his
love
ass.
to read your inspection report, but so listen. Yes, inspectors don't have a lot of qualifications. It's the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah.
People that are inspectors, right?
Yeah.
However,
Well, let me say this: it's not like that in every state, neither.
but here in
Okay.
States
Michigan,
are
Yeah.
right.
however, the majority of them they put more shit on the inspection report than they should, because they scare people. More times,
Yeah, we
inspectors scare the buyer.
The buyer.
Than they should, right? I tell my buyer all the time, look, I hate inspectors, right? I mean inspections, because I know they're gonna come in here, they're gonna put everything in the world on here. So that's why it makes no sense. Even if he was a bad one, he would be bad against he worked for you. So
Right.
if the plumbing was
Horrible.
it would have to be like some galvanized shit. I'm
Well,
trying to think
a
of
lot
what
of
kind of
plumbing
plumbing
is
did you have?
galvanized.
It was a mixture of old school 1930s piping and
Galvanized.
PVC,
Some galvanized,
and it just
yeah.
wasn't connected.
So-
I'm talking like fumes. It was the worst.
Okay, cool. So if you had that,
Yes.
and if you go back and look in that inspection report, and he don't say this plumbing, this is galvanized and PEX mixed, and
Right.
you may need new plumbing or whatever.
Right.
Because
Did
he
not.
can't tell you that you need it.
Right.
He can't
Right.
go in there unless he sees
Right.
real leaks. He can't just go in there and say your plumbing bad.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the difference between a good inspector and a bad one. So the good inspectors, they're gonna have what's wrong, then they're gonna have recommendations.
Correct.
Because the recommendations are based on current city codes or goals or
Gotcha.
building codes. So they'll say, okay, this is not broken or needs repair, but I would recommend replacing. Right? So it would say,
that kill your
so like, and then they may kill your deal, but it's all on how you interpret it or how they word it. So an inspector may say exterior brick damage or exterior brick is in has deferred maintenance or something like that. And what they really mean is it needs some tuck pointing, right?
Gotcha.
A few dollars to tuck point it, right? So it all depends on wording and how they explain it to you and how you comprehend what they're saying.
I want to see your inspection report. You got it?
It's probably in the email.
So this another point too, and this
He ain't say wood missing from the roof.
right.
Right. No, I mean,
He ain't say that.
That right there is a look.
He ain't
So
say
if
mortar
walk
missing from the side of your house.
Right.
He ain't
I
say
feel like the one thing that you could
dishwasher don't work.
One argument, he only got one.
Right.
Y'all saying that he had a bad inspector. Off of the three things he named,
Right.
I feel like that inspector only there's only one thing that I think if it was true.
You talking about the wood?
Yes.
You saying if it was missing.
Right.
So then that you got a lawsuit.
And it was something stupid like 4 layers of shingles on top of the house.
Oh, that's a no. And you could see that.
Yep.
Right. Now here's the other thing too. So
That's
for
type of stuff I
you
point out.
on the side now?
No, I don't because
But
I still feel this Yelp situation. I got to see it. You know what I'm saying? I got to see the inspection.
If we would have walked up to a house and it had 4 layers, I would have pointed that out to you.
Now that's
because my favorite thing is I'm not a roofer.
Yeah.
But you see that right there?
Yeah, some realtors will say, a realtor that knows some of what they're doing will say, look, it looks like it's got too many layers on here. It might not be up to code, but ask your inspector about it, right?
Or get a roofer.
Yep, or get a roofer
There
to
you
look
go.
at it, right?
Because that's where
So,
you at. You know what I'm saying? Like, was she just with her original statement? You got to remember.
Get that professional to inspect.
now,
them.
can you
Absolutely.
imagine, too, so keep in mind, some buyers don't even go to their inspections. So they'll just let the inspector go in and then just get the report. So I recommend every buyer you show up to your inspection.
So when you guys do have a first time or just an anytime home buyer, do y'all suggest get a plumber, get a roofer, or do y'all just say do what y'all want to do on the
I have
inspection?
moved back to that just for some recent things that have happened. I have an inspection company that is on on my list. I have like 3 or 4 on my list, and a lot of people like this inspection company because they have some warranties and different things. And
I like them too.
Yeah.
I don't even like nobody. But I like them.
but they have some of my clients have been disappointed by that company. I understand it because I'm in the business, so kind of like this debate that we're having. You know what I mean?
Right.
They feel like they.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you right now. So that's my point.
No,
'Cause I know
that's
they
what
don't
I'm
do
saying.
I'm right, though.
Exactly. But so what I'm explaining is, so for me, I have been moving to the point of saying, look, if you really want a real good inspection, get your trades, your skilled trades out here. Find you a plumber that you trust. Find you an electrician that you trust. And during our 7 days,
Right.
get these people in here to come and look at these things, so that you can hopefully that's a more satisfying approach.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like more recently, a lot of people have been dissatisfied with the private inspection. I understand it. I understand it on both ends.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. You can go hire all those people. You can go hire your plumber.
Right.
He wouldn't have found that shit. You can go hire your electrician. That plumber would not have found that plumbing in that attic, in that ceiling that was leaking. He wouldn't have found that.
I can see that part, but he would have known that water wasn't going down the dang on tub, right?
I agree. So
He'd have saw that.
I agree. So what I would say is you pay for your basic inspection. Once you get your basic inspection, if you're not happy with it, then you let the sellers know. I got to send somebody else out there.
Right.
How do you know if you're happy with it if you're a first time home buyer?
Right.
Because in the report, like Reggie said, it should say you may want to have a licensed plumber come and look at this item.
So I give you a real life example. I'm listing the seller is a contractor, right? He's actually an electrician, but he think he knows everything, right? This is a 1,200 square foot brick ranch, right? And that's gonna really make sense in a minute. He has the whole house generator, which is good. He has 2 circuit breaker boxes. Why, I don't know, but he said he has the basement on one circuit breaker box, upstairs on another one. He's an electrician. It makes sense to him. I'm thinking I'm going to see like jacuzzi tub and all this other stuff. None of that. That's just what he wanted to do. It's like a project to him. He has 2 hot water tanks. His explanation was he has 1 hot water tank. If this one breaks, it'll automatically kick in, and he got a reserve. 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom brick ranch.
That's a little house.
So imagine, I'm thinking I'm going to see like a hot tub or something in the back or something else, or a bunch of kids where they just using all the hot water. None of that, right? Inspector comes out. First thing the inspector says is he start asking questions about it. And the guy, since he's an electrician, he can actually explain it in a way to make you believe it all, right? Mm-hmm. The inspector says, it looks fine, but we recommend you have a third-party electrician and a third-party plumber look at these two items. Mm-hmm. So that's what a good inspector would do, right? Because they don't know everything. They know some of the codes. So, again, you just want to ask the people that use inspectors all the time, be there, and then if most of your inspectors will recommend third parties. Mm-hmm. As well.
So I got one last thing to say about this. We talk about this all the time. Make sure you have a good real estate professional representing you, and then you will be good. So like if you come to me, Jonnita, Reggie, we've been doing this long enough to where we know the signs. You know what I'm saying? So we, like Jonnita said, she go up, she see the roof. Even if the inspector don't say something about the roof, Jonnita gonna say something about the roof.
I got a question. Mm-hmm. Was it your inspector you hired, or was it the appraisal? Because some people confuse the two.
It was a family member's inspector. So they was like, they did a good job with me. We're going to send them to you. So we just trusted them.
Private inspector. Okay, because some people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Well, you had FHA? Mm-mm. Oh, no. Yeah.
We just had, it was a conventional, but with
Mr. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. So that was just a learning experience for me. Now, just sell me a bando so I know that everything's bad. And I just fix it all.
Well,
and I'm good.
I think that when you're buying an old house, you should assume everything's bad anyway, even if it's been painted over.
That's the other thing too. Like you buying a house. It's a fucking house. You know what I'm saying? It's like you buying a car. How am I supposed to go in there and people ask me to come in? They be like, Jonnita do it. We went to the building today. Shit, I don't know. I see the same shit y'all see.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you gutting it all in.
And I tell people that all the time, like, I fix and flip, but I'm a fix and flipper. I walk into a house, say, you walked into the building, and I go, this will look good, that'll look good, let's do that, and that. And we do those things, but we don't live in a house. We don't take baths there. We don't flush toilets there.
Right.
We don't.
I'll tell you a great one.
Have pool parties in the
computer.
Yeah, come on, Kay. Jonnita is moving into her house soon, right?
Right. Close
now, I already know.
We did a lot of things in there.
Right.
We replaced all her her water lines.
Right.
The majority of her drains. We rewired the house, not all of it, but the majority of the house.
Right.
She went from
radiator
to forced air, so that's the one thing. So her forced air should be fine, right?
Right.
But guess what? She hasn't lived in there.
Right.
When we don't know what's gonna happen when she start using the bathrooms and the toilets and shit, and I don't know.
Well,
I've been in there for damn.
But look,
years.
and I will tell you, I'm scared. So, and houses that I work on, like the people, I'm using the same person y'all using.
Right.
The same person that fixed that house is fixing my house. But I guess it's the understanding that my house was built in 1840.
I can tell you one better though. That is no guarantee. So I had a client that brought new construction, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a big house. So like one of the rooms is like above the garage, and she was there like a year and a half or so. And this particular side of the house, she never used that room. Like she just put stuff in there or whatever. And her daughter was staying in that room, came home and stayed in that room. It's like, I'm not getting any heat in here, right? She never had any reason to not know it was any heat in there because it feels somewhat warm when she went in there. But come to find out, when the heating guys, when they were building a house, and they did something where the ductwork was blocked when they covered everything up. So now she didn't have heat in this room, but for her, the builder, of course, had a warranty and everything like that. But it was no way nobody would have known except her because she was living there and actually using it.
Guess what? You can blame a million people there, right?
Right.
You had they passed inspection.
Yep, they passed the city inspection.
Came out and inspected it, but so that's what I'm saying. Like you can't, bro. Like we're not.
Because the city approved it when it was open. When they closed it off, the city just seen it was closed in a vent.
Yeah.
But something happened with the duct work when they closed it.
artesian, the half bath. Whoever remember they tiled over the vent and we could tell it was a vent in there. It's like the floor was hot, but we wasn't getting heat in there. And he like, it's a vent under here.
Y'all thought it was a heated floor.
But look, I do. So I tell people right now with the new constructions, like you said, the one thing that I do. I love more than one thing about new construction.
Right.
But I really like that it's not been used by anyone. It's all under warranty. And then the builder is still typically around for some time saying, if you have any problems.
Unless they go bankrupt.
Correct. And a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of the times they're still around saying in a week or two, if you have a problem with this, that, and the third, my trailer is right over here. Come see me.
Right.
I do like that. But when it comes to an old house, these 30,
it's like buying a car,
25-year plus homes,
right?
Just you're gonna have to expect that it's gonna be some stuff.
So look, you buy the car, and you drove off the lot, and everything was good. A week later, the engine gone.
Yeah,
you're gonna get you. Hey, you sold me a limit. I didn't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It drove when I sold it to you.
Yeah, because I only drove it from here to the lot. Right. Yeah. And like with new construction too, the thing you got, if you ever buy new construction, you're going to have nail pops. You're going to have settlement. So you might be living in your house one day, 5 years later, and all of a sudden you see this crack in your drywall or in your ceiling. It's stuff that's going to come up in new construction too.
Right.
Yeah.
You should expect it.
But that's why you want
expectations of the individual that's paying for the. I just think Dean expectation was look if Dean would have said if he would have came here and he would have been like, man, the electrical box was. It was a 3,000 square foot house. We had 100 amp electrical box, or I don't know, something more, something that you can see.
Right.
He named a whole bunch of stuff that was hidden.
Hidden defects.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And most inspectors will have a clause stating that they don't cover anything that they couldn't see.
No, but so one of the things that I do like about the inspection company, the one that Shaka was saying, so I refer out, and he likes. They have like a 90-day, it's either 90 days, it's like two. So 90 days either from inspection or from move in. So Dean is sitting there and the ceiling starts leaking.
Right.
There's some recourse. It may not be like 100% coverage, but he can go back to that inspection company within 90 days and say, hey, you inspected my house. My ceiling just came in from this plumbing leak that you didn't find.
Right.
And then they have like a third party insurance or something like that.
Okay.
Covers
like a home warranty type thing.
Yep.
Do you know the difference between inspection and appraisal?
So, from my understanding, that inspection is more so like checking everything out. Like, I guess, like what's functioning, what's not functioning.
Right.
And the appraisal is like more so how much the house is worth. Is that correct?
Right. So the appraisers come in there really not on your behalf, but on the lender's behalf.
Correct.
Because they're determining the value of the property, but the value is determined by a few things like the size of the property, location, and the condition.
Okay.
So some appraisers, especially like with FHA, they have a checklist, which is somewhat like an inspection that they're completing. Okay. So the roof has to have at least a minimum 3 to 5 year life expectancy for some loans. You got health and safety issues. You can't have like trip hazards, peel and paint and things of that nature. So an appraiser may look at a furnace and say it's working and it may look safe, but they can also put in there, we recommend you have a HVAC guy do a heat certification for you.
Okay.
Right? So they're somewhat inspecting it depending on the type of loan you get.
Okay.
A private inspector is there, like we said, they're coming in on your behalf to try to discover something. Now, a good private inspector would say, you have a furnace, this is the age, we don't see any recalls on it, and you may have 10 years left on this furnace.
So that's why Dean was so disappointed in his, because he felt like that he should have pointed out those things.
Right.
And then that would have determined him he probably wouldn't have
bought the
bought the house.
Or asked the seller to make the repairs.
Dean wanted them to read the future. To see in the future.
Right.
Okay. Do you have anything that we missed or that's important to you that you feel like, you know what? I need to know this before I leave.
No, y'all really went over a lot of key points. Like, those are my major questions. Like, like the money aspect, the credit aspect. And y'all kind of went over some things that, like, inspections and stuff like that. I always hear you talk about those. So that is something that I kind of, wonder about. But I know that's more so when you get into the process. But for the most part, yeah, y'all went over everything, that the major things.
Okay.
I got one thing that I would say this to people that's first-time buyers. Stop saying, I hate somebody say I want to buy a $250,000 house. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Come in and say how much you want to spend per month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
never got that either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's I would never. I would tell you, like, this is where I know, like, what area, and then I know, like, what price range I want to spend on my mortgage.
Correct.
Right.
And that's going to determine.
Like, I want my mortgage to look like this.
Yeah, that's going to determine your area and how much house you afford.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because taxes are different. Like, so
Yeah.
250 spends different in different areas.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I think they don't understand that.
Yeah. And your mortgage payment, a lot of people qualify for more, but you might only want to spend. You may qualify for $1,100 or $1,300 a month. You might only want to spend $900.
Right.
Or you may qualify for $250 in Pontiac where the tax is less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And $250 Southfield is
different.
Yeah.
Way different.
He said different. Let me ask you this though, real quick. So you've been in your property for 3 years renting, right? So if I told you, like, if you was owning that house and 3 years ago, it would be safe to say that house would probably be worth about $50,000 more in most areas on average.
50%.
Yeah. So if you bought your house 3 years ago, how does that make you feel comparing to being a renter versus a homeowner?
I mean, it doesn't make me feel any type of way as of right now for me, and what I got going on.
Right.
So it doesn't make me feel any way.
That's
Because you got to
good.
just move on on your own accord.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
definitely don't want to get into like Shaka said, that's a big purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So it is intimidating. So I'm never moving like on anybody. I'm only moving for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What I can handle, what I want to do.
Right.
And what's going to be the best decision for me.
Right.
So, no, that doesn't make me feel any type of way.
But
I'm glad
don't be
she said
intimidated.
that.
Don't be
I mean,
intimidated.
it is, though.
So you want to be
Because
cautious?
it's a big, well, yeah. I mean, but it
But
is
not
like
scared,
doing it,
right.
like,
It is.
just jumping out there. It's a big purchase. It's a big thing.
So you don't want to have it. You don't want to have it to the point where it's stopping you from moving, because you can.
Right.
You can still move.
Yeah.
You just want to move cautiously.
Yeah, and
Or
and smart, and informed,
Mm-hmm.
smart. Because, like, I don't want to go through what
Right.
Dean went through, you know what I mean? Like,
no
and then
way you
and then you coming out of, you know what I'm saying? And you just
Right.
getting yourself into a hole, you just, making a bigger, mess for yourself, So I, like you said, smart, wise, informed, with the right guidance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, real estate professional.
Yes, thank you.
So she kind of proved too, and this last thing I'm gonna say, but a lot of people be like, "Oh, everybody should be a homeowner," and I'm like, everybody is not ready to take that on, and everybody, like you said, you have to move on your own time based on what's good for you at the moment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So you don't
sure.
feel like you missing out on anything.
No, I
Uh-uh.
don't. I don't feel like
Okay.
I feel like I'm young and popping. And
Okay.
I'm moving on my own feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, for real. I mean, I don't have any children. I'm
Right.
not tied down. Not, none of that. So
Right.
I can move accordingly and make a proper decision.
Correct.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, it's a wrap.
All right.